Welcome back. My name is Sean Shaw, and this is Vanguards of Democracy. Today, the Vice President of Multicultural Sales and Development at Visit Tampa Bay, my good friend Sherri Brown, was nice enough to stop by to talk about everything from business development to national conventions, particularly the Omega Psi Phi Convention, and underrated attractions in the Tampa Bay area. But first, I'm joined in the studio by the current and newly elected county commissioner, chairwoman of the board, that is Kimberly Overman, to break down the impact of redistricting on the county and Hillsborough's trajectory over the next few years. That starts right now, so don't go anywhere. Welcome to our first segment here on Vanguards of Democracy. This is Sean Shaw, and I'm joined here by one of my favorite people in Tampa Bay, and that is the Vice President of Visit Tampa Bay, Sherri Brown, who is such a vibrant kind of representative of the city. And I've interacted with Sherri on a few times trying to get particularly the Omegas here and other people here for events here in Tampa Bay. Sherri, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Excited for the opportunity.
Tell me, how did you get your start in hospitality and tourism? How'd we get here?
I started right out of high school, not too long ago. In 1985, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And I'm like, no, I told my parents I want a happy job. So I actually put my mom's suit on and went to the Omni Hotel at Union Station in St. Louis, Missouri, and I always felt I had a telephone voice, and they hired me on the spot to be the telephone operator. And working in the hotel, and we were part of the opening team, and all the beautiful furniture and all the wonderful things. I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. So that's when I pursued my passion at 17 years old, was with Omni for about 4 years, Marriott sales school, and Marriott about 9 years, the St. Louis Convention Bureau, went to Marriott sales school in Muskegon, New Jersey, and then was with Adams Mark a short time, and then went on to be with the Little Rock Convention Bureau, and was there for 4 years and booked Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
You know who
there
to give a
in
shout out to.
2006. Yes, and several other multicultural conventions. And I tell you, it's so vital that you brand yourself, like Vanguard, like Visit Tampa Bay, as your career. And I got a call. I was sitting next to Cheryl Underwood at Zetas in Vegas, and I had never been in the state of Florida. And the vice president of sales with Tampa Bay and Company, which is Visit Tampa Bay now, called and said, "You're doing an excellent job in Little Rock. We would love you to consider multicultural sales manager with Visit Tampa Bay." They flew me in next week. I had an interview. By the time I got back to Little Rock, they offered me the job. And the next week, United Van Lines was here. I was in corporate housing for about 3 months out on the veterans. And now I've been here 14 years, and really brought the community up on the impact of multicultural tourism, because when I first started, there was not a lot of multicultural conventions coming here. But I did, through my relationships and my branding, and that I knew this was a beautiful destination and we had a beautiful community here. And I'm so grateful for all of the community dignitaries like yourself, Attorney Athena Joyner, that really supported me through all of the things that I needed to go to expand my career. Got to get a major shout out, and my wind beneath my wings is Santiago C. Carrata, my president and CEO. So in the last
the best hair in Tampa Bay.
Yes, yeah, and he has really supported our multicultural tourism efforts. And now at this point, I have brought almost $800 million in multicultural conventions that had never been here before, including traveling to Macau, China with the Patels and the medical community to bring Bollywood. which was started with Dr. Karan Patel. And bringing that to our community. I am the only one on the sales team that have booked Raymond James Stadium with 52,000 people in 2014 for Bollywood. So
No, the multicultural events are if you don't have the connections and you don't know that world, then it's very hard to get them here, and that's why it's important that you are over that, because it's you got to know not only the Divine Nine but the Bollywood. You got to know all these Shriners and things that some people don't even know exist, and they exist in a huge way. And the economic impact you just described is huge, and we all want you to do well. We all of us love you here in Tampa Bay, and we're not going to let anything happen to you, because you are so good at your job and what you do at Visit Tampa Bay. You've described some of it, but you essentially, what are you doing? You are going out and selling the idea of people to come hold their things in Tampa Bay, right?
Yes. For instance, just tomorrow, I have coming out of El Paso, Texas, and Alabama, the president and vice president of Buffalo Soldiers motorcycle to bring 4,000 people here for July of 2023. Their economic impact is probably about $8 million with hotels and, bed tax, city tax, county tax. And then it puts people to work. And then after a week after that, I have Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, which is coming in July of 2023.
I guess they can come.
Yeah.
We'll let them come.
That will be the first of the Divine Nine in the history of this city, which Omega Psi Phi, but the pandemic changed that.
Right.
But my goal when I came here in 2008 was to book a national convention. So I did achieve that. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then after that, on July 12th, the president of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity and his executive director is coming in for a site visit. So 2025. So just the three of those, we're looking at over like $300 million economic impact that had never been to Tampa before. So I was telling Santiago, I haven't even touched the surface of what I really want to do here. And it's really not about me. It's all about my community, and it's all about my life legacy. To say, that I've been in the hotel industry for 36 years, I didn't want to get to the end of my life and say, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I have been with Marriott. I've been with Hyatt. I've traveled the world. I never thought, because I'm an African American, because I'm a woman, I always knew that I was qualified, and I let other people deal with those, but I'm going to do this no matter what. It is my passion. And being from East St. Louis, Illinois, and I tell young people, it ain't where you're from, it's where you're going. And you're going to deal with racism, you're going to live with sexism, you're going to deal with all the ism, but stay focused on what you need so you can look back on your life and say, you know what? I've enjoyed. I've stayed at some of the finest dined at finest restaurants. I've stayed at some of the most luxurious hotels, the Venetian Hotel in Macau, China. A luxury suite, so I've enjoyed my life.
I mean, it shows. And when I asked you, I didn't know it had started from high school all the way till now, and it shows. One, it shows because how positive you are. Two, you're good at it, because you're good at something that is your life's passion. Like that's why you do things that are you're passionate about and that you want to do, rather than what people think you need to be doing and what makes other people happy. Because you're not as good as when it's your passion.
Yeah, and it took me 11 years to get an associate's, bachelor's, and a master's on public transportation. But I was determined. And right when I was finishing my master's, my mom passed away 3 months before, but I graduated. My mom passed away in January. I graduated in May. So never an excuse of I don't have a car, I don't have this and that. You just make it do what it do. And I'm very passionate about that quote. And I do that with my groups too. I know the culture of Omega. I know how from your leadership here with Al, and I knew, when you put together your 75th anniversary, I knew, and I love to see you all smile. That's
Right.
my passion. When
Right.
like, look at this, they happy with that,
No, that was and what you're talking about for the viewers and the listeners is we had our chapter's 75th anniversary at
the Renaissance.
the Renaissance, and it was a really cool event. And there was I like to see that side of Omega.
Yes.
It was like a cigar roller,
Yes.
and I know you had a lot to do with putting that together. So I appreciate it. And everyone loved it. To your point, everyone loved it. It was great, and the brothers came out, and the community came out, and we're going to do things like that more because of
Yes.
how well that went. So I want to thank you for that, and we all know that was you and not Al. So don't worry.
Okay.
How long you been in Tampa? You said.
Going into my 14th year.
How has it changed from back then to now in terms of what this city has to offer someone that may want to have their convention here?
Well, I just did a walkthrough yesterday of Mr. Vinnick's vision for the next 4 years. It has changed tremendously. The way that Channelside, Sparkman Wharf have really changed and offering our conventioneers from where it started. And it's truly growing, and it's going to be amazing in 2024 when Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated come to Tampa. I go for a walk on Saturday mornings at Armature Works, and I could just see my brother friends, everybody's at Armature Works, everybody's at Sparksman. So just gonna have an experience because all of you all have traveled to. Everybody got a JW, everybody got a Marriott, everybody got a convention center, everybody have a meeting room, but people are all about experiences and memories to say, you know what, we had a good time there.
On the water.
On the
in Tampa
water.
Bay.
Your headquarter office can go back and say, you know what, you have conventions to make money, not lose money. So your attendance, the registration is up. So your leadership at the headquarters can say you had a good time. And then you all, Sean, with the Piota chapter and the surrounding chapters can be proud of your product because no one can really touch us. We are number one with multicultural tourism. So when I first got here, we were not there. So we have a multicultural guide. We have an African-American family for the first time in the history of Visit Tampa Bay on the front cover of our visitor's guide. We are, I'm so proud to say we're number one with multicultural tourism from when I started 14 years ago.
Sherri, I want to keep going and talk about some other things. While we were on a break, we talked about how rigorous the process is to get a national, let me just say the one I'm familiar with, an Omega Psi Phi national meeting here. I mean, talk about some of the process. Talk about how hard it is to get one of these big fraternities or sororities to have their national meeting in Tampa. Because I know you're involved in walkthroughs and you're talking to the leadership team and you trying to how many hotel rooms you have available and what's the transportation like and how do we get from this, what's registration like. People, there's so much that goes into these events that people just, hey, Tampa's a nice place. Let's just go meet at the convention center. It is a much bigger deal than that.
Well, first of all, getting the RFP from the group, and sometimes they don't have the RFP right. And I have patience with them. They don't know. The executive director of Omega Psi Phi or Delta Sigma Theta, they don't know. They don't, or they're a doctor, or they're a lawyer. They don't know that, but I am the expert at that. So I take on that role and become their planner and the RFP process. And then I got to communicate that to the hotel, and that's multicultural language. They don't understand that. Dr. Patel don't know, he know how to buy a JW,
right?
But he don't know how many meeting space, how many, this event and that. So I take on that role and do all of that for them. And in our industry, it's not a cut and dry. It ain't, we gonna move stuff, we gonna change stuff, and and so you gotta follow that procedure of changes. And then the next step is communicating that to your hotel partners, to the convention center, to the city of Tampa, that we're going to have this many people in town this time. Having those relationships is so vital, with the mayor, with, the commissioner and the councilman and all of that. And then the next step is bidding, and then you competing with, like now I'm competing with Mobile, Alabama.
For what?
For a group, Buffalo Soldier. He's like, Mobile. I'm like,
if it ain't football, ain't no competition with Alabama.
Right. Now come here tomorrow. So then you got to have that relationship. The relationship is what sells the account.
Well, they want to be comfortable with you.
Yes.
Because you're the main contact, and they want to come and, what's the culture of Tampa like? What's Tampa like? It's obviously beautiful, but what do you have to offer, and how do we get around? It's a lot of stuff going in. Because like you said, everyone's got a nice hotel.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to talk about. We're getting much nicer hotels. Remember, it was the only Marriott Waterside and the Westin were the only ones, and the one downtown. But we've got kind of an explosion of hotel space and nice hotel space. That must be a huge boon. It must make it easier for you to be selling Tampa now that we've got some other hotel room, right?
Yes, we have the new JW that just opened up before Super Bowl. There is the Floridian is getting ready to be a brand new hotel.
Okay.
Brand new Marriott, and then right on the Riverwalk by the Platte Bridge is going to be another luxury hotel. The Edition Hotel that's right at Sparkman and Channelside across from USF Medical School. They just let us know I can invite you for their grand opening in March.
Oh, nice.
They're offering to friends and family for $800 a night. So this will be a 5-star hotel. It is Mr. Vinnick will be living on the top penthouse. But this hotel will start at like $800, $1,000 a night. It will be 160 room, and it's called the Edition. There is only about 4 in the world. So for us to get that type of hotel would be great, but I'm just trying to find that niche market of client.
Keep looking, because it ain't over here.
Well, I think I'm creative. I'm going to invite the Housewives of Atlanta to do a filming with Andy Cohen at the hotel.
Nice. Maybe maybe you'll find them there.
Good luck with that, huh? Okay.
So we've had this. We hope we're coming out of this pandemic. There's other new variants coming that are affecting this, but let's assume that we are coming out of it. How did the pandemic affect your ability to sell or get people to come here? Well, I mean, it must have hurt tourism tremendously. I mean, Omega's had to move our whole thing a couple years because of the pandemic. Our whole convention. What was the pandemic's effect on your business?
It was devastating. I remember that dreadful day of March 14th. Oh my God. And I was out on a site visit, and they were like, go home. I'm like, no, I can't go home. Right. I'm out on a site visit. And I didn't know what was happening. And it was just devastating. All our Marriott, everybody, all the staff and everything. And a lot of people, were furloughed and laid off, and it was devastating. But we did have great with rebooking. I immediately, first thing I called was Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and see what can we do to rebook. So that was my first group that I rebooked and called all my accounts and maintained a relationship. National Association of Blacks in Government, another one that was going to be right after Omega's in 20. They immediately signed. Again, they want to come when Omega's come, so they rebooked. So we rebound greatly. And then, of course, we moved forward with the Super Bowl, which was very, great and successful for our destination. So we actually was the leader to teach other cities, let's just move forward. Also,
again, we're spoiled. We get a lot of stuff here in Tampa, and it's you and Santiago that are doing such a good job of it. Now, obviously people know what to do in Tampa in the summertime, right? It's water, it's fishing, like we talked about some. It's all the summer activities. What is there to do in Tampa Bay in the winter? Like what activities do we have going on in Tampa Bay? I know there's the Curtis Hickson little ice thing that they do, but what are you telling people that may be coming to Tampa in our winter time? What can they be doing?
I find like a lot of my groups I do like a doing what we call familiarization. We call it fam tour. Um, I actually take a lot of my groups um, on like shopping to premier shopping tours, and I share with my clients what they like. People like what they like, Even Christmas, somebody give you a pair of socks, they want this kind of socks that you like. So I try to do a profile of what they like. So, the boat show, the Christmas lighting of the boat show. So those are some of the things that we try to do that make it give them an experience. On Friday, I'm taking my group because I know they are passionate about African American history. So I'm setting up with the city of Tampa, Robin Nye, my good friend. We're going to do a tour of Perry Harvey Park because want my motorcycle group, Buffalo Soldiers, to have a big event in Perry Harvey Park during their convention. So something else that they can't do in other cities.
Right. What are some of the underappreciated things to do in Tampa that maybe, everyone knows the big time stuff to do? What are some things that kind of under the radar that you might tell people to do, or you might bring some of your people to?
Actually, the brewery bus tours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was seeing on the news this morning where they're offering a scholarship to minority students that want to go into opening their own brewery. So I think that's something to do, a brewery bus tour. Um, Only in Tampa that you can go for a walk on the longest continuous sidewalk in the world, and that's Bayshore. So I think that's just an experience.
No, walking what they've done to the riverfront and then the Bayshore, you've got to take advantage of that. Just walking on the river, particularly at night when all the lights are going on and stuff. It's a gorgeous background.
Yes.
Sherri, I want to thank you for coming. It is clear why we get all these conventions, and it's because of you and how good you are at your job and how passionate you are about it. But I want to ask you, we're in the New Year's season. Give me one resolution. I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me one New Year's resolution before we wrap up that you got.
I am very, very spiritual. I just want to be my resolution that I want to be a blessing to my community. I want to use my gift as a blessing to my community, to all of us, and all of us diversity and multicultural, and support everybody, and we all come together. So that's my resolution, that we all come together and that I can use my gift to be an impact for this community. It's not about me. I was thinking about Martin Luther King. I want to serve humanity, not me.
Well, you are a blessing to this community, and we love you and we thank you. So we're going to wrap up now. I got one of these headshots for you, so you can sign and we can put you on the wall of fame here. But I want to thank you for thank you for coming and talking to the listeners and talking so the viewers could see. But I appreciate it, and I want to thank you for all you do for Tampa and all you do for us to make sure that we get some of our events here and that we look good. You make us all look good. So I want to tell you, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, welcome to the second segment of Vanguards of Democracy. It's Sean Shaw here, and I'm here actually with the new chairwoman of the Hillsborough County Commission, Kimberly Overman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Kimberly lives in my neighborhood. She lives in Seminole Heights and has always been very supportive of anything I've run for, and so I'm eternally grateful for that. I want to thank you for that. I've always appreciated your journey to public office. Now, a lot of people decide they want to run for office and the next day they file for something. And you have a long history of working on issues in the community, working with people in the community. You've been in the community 37 years. I mean, I think that's the natural arc to getting elected and getting people to have enough faith in you to elect you to the county commission. So I've always appreciated that about you. I want to talk about redistricting some. This is we got to talk about this because my listeners are going to want to talk about it. I watched the hearing and it was interesting. I want you to just tell me what you want to tell me about redistricting from a from kind of an objective point of view. What's going on? What went on? Where are we at?
Well, I hate to say it, but that meeting was probably the worst meeting I've ever been in. It really made me sick inside because there was so much fear and some disrespect there on everybody's part. And that's unfortunate because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is to get an opportunity for all of the voters in Hillsborough County, an opportunity to have a voice. And that was my goal, is to find a way that in our redistricting process that we had an opportunity for everyone in each one of those districts, a place and a person that they could support and vote for, and had an opportunity to vote. Interestingly enough, the maps that were of contention actually were not all that different from each other. They accomplished the goal of maintaining a minority seat and got us to a point where we hit the 39% we were shooting for. So I'm glad we finally have gotten it resolved, because I'm hoping at this point the voters know that they have a district. The minority voters have a district. The folks that aren't in that particular district know they have someone to vote for, and they will have representation in each one of those districts. And that's the goal. It was just really painful getting there because I think there was much more dissension than any of the differences deserved.
It was an emotional meeting, and this is not. This is a tape show we're doing right now. This is not live. I think my next show in the next week is going to be live, and I will likely talk about redistricting some more. A lot of the people that call into my show on a regular basis did, in fact, testify at that hearing, and so I know they're going to care about it. And I just want to, I'm going to talk about it a little bit and maybe talk about some of the maps and the differences of the maps. But it was rough. It was rough to watch that, and that's why I wanted to talk about that first before we got started. So let's move on to some other things now. You are the chairwoman of the county commission. That's cool. It's a lot of responsibility. What's different between being the chairwoman and just being a county commissioner? What's added now?
Well, one, you got to show up at every meeting.
Yeah.
And you actually have to make sure that the meetings run well. I mean, the goal here is to have those that voters have elected to serve and to provide an idea of how to enact policy. Our staff does a wonderful job of bringing things to the table for us to elect and vote on. And the key for us as leaders is to review that information and make the best decision. The good news is the last year we've actually done a very good job of working together and done amazing work. Unfortunately, we don't talk about it much.
We're going to talk about it today.
Okay. And I'm glad to hear that because there's a lot of good work that's being done. And I hope that this next year gives me an opportunity to set the volume and the tone for continuing that good work, because that's why we're there, is to serve our citizens and our communities.
Do you set the agenda of the county commission as the chair? Do you determine kind of what, or I know different boards operate different ways, but.
Well, we do to some extent. The staff works on bringing all the items forward, and then we prioritize together with the staff on what gets presented that date. In other words, if an item looks like it should go on consent, because it's pretty much everything we've already been working on, we're just getting the business done, that will go on consent, and typically that's just get it done. The items that are on the regular agenda or on special public hearings are places where the commissioners and the staff can present to the public items that are important for the public to understand we're voting on. And it's at that point we stick our line in the sand to say, I'm supporting this effort and this motion and this policy, or we vote against it in order to get it better or to remove it from the agenda altogether.
Let's talk about some of those good things, and it's particularly I want to focus on two issues that I've always focused on when I have been running for office, and that's affordable housing and criminal justice issues. Tell me about. I want you to tell me the good news in affordable housing. I'm looking at some amazing numbers here, but what's going on good in the area of affordable housing? What's the county doing to help with that issue?
Well, we don't have major numbers that we're throwing out there. I'm actually still trying to get an inventory of what we've already built this year. But we are cutting ribbons and breaking soil to create more affordable housing in Hillsborough County. We're also prioritizing some efforts to make it happen. For example, I led the effort to put together a community land trust. In other words, having land that the county owns or land that communities are willing to contribute to a charitable, non-profitable trust gives an opportunity for building affordable housing in a more sustainable way.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I've now been doing the show long enough that I can anticipate some of the callers' questions, even if they're not going to call in. What's affordable housing? Who determines what affordable is?
Affordable housing is...
Shout out to Robin Lockett, who I know was going to call in and ask that question.
Right. Affordable housing is actually in the legal term.
There is a black and white legal definition of affordable housing.
Absolutely.
That is a formula, right?
That is correct. That's established by HUD, by the federal guidelines. However, it is localized by the community's average median income, which we usually hear as AMI. Hillsborough County has a set of income levels of our community that actually establishes what level of housing you qualify for housing support. In other words, picking up the difference between what the market charges and what the federal government says is market value.
I just want to be clear that you are not arbitrarily saying this is what affordable is. As a commission or even as a chair or even as you individually.
No, trust me. Trust me. Affordable housing is defined by the federal government. The key here is that in different parts of our county, property values are affordable in some places and less affordable in others. And the average median income does shift from different parts of our community.
So an affordable housing project in East Tampa would be different in terms of rental assistance or subsidies than in South Tampa?
No, actually, they're all the same numbers, and that's the challenge. Because you'll finding affordable housing that within the federal guidelines, you'll have difficulty finding that in many areas of our county because we're not willing to invest in those communities.
Right. And that's what I wanted. It seems that there is at least right now a commitment on affordable housing. Like the majority of the commission wants to do something about it.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's kind of new right there. That's why elections have consequences. And so I'm glad that because I hear everyone talking about this now on the commission because there's that momentum to do something about it.
Well, when I got elected and actually got appointed to the Affordable Housing Board, of which I'm now the chair.
You're the chair of everything, man.
Well, not quite, but but I do have a lot of hats on, I will say that. But affordable housing has been my first effort. That and transportation have been areas that I've actually taken a lot of leadership positions in. But one of the first things I did in the affordable housing space is reorganize the Affordable Housing Board, making sure that we had voices from lots of different communities and different segments of our economy to make sure that stakeholders in the issue associated with having a safe place for people to live and thrive were at the table in making recommendations to the Board of County Commission for adoption and implementation.
You mentioned transportation. I want to talk about that some before we talk about criminal justice. And obviously, I was honored to be on the IOC that the courts decided didn't need to exist. Is there going to be some sort of replacement ballot initiative or tax to reinstitute that transit tax, or what's the plan for that?
It's always been my plan to bring it back to the voters because of a linguistic error in the previous surtax. The challenge we have bringing it forward at the moment is we've not heard from Judge Barbas on what happens with the prior dollars that were collected under the surtax that was found unconstitutional. That makes it very difficult to talk about the future. We'll have more people show up to talk about the past. And my goal is to be able to make sure that citizens understand that we have to invest in transportation. We have to invest in transit in order to level out the playing field for so many of our communities that earn income that cannot afford 2 cars as part of their family budget. As a financial planner for over 30 years, I know how hard it is to make ends meet with many of our citizens in our community. And having to own a car in a community that is car-centric with lacking transit makes it incredibly difficult for families to build wealth. My goal is to fix that. And one of the ways we can do that is by raising the revenues to do so. We have no other source other than a surtax at the moment. So bringing a surtax back to the voters in 22 is critical to the success of Hillsborough County, success of families, and success of our businesses.
The projects that were being brought before the IOC, it was eye-opening what that money was actually being used for. It's one thing when you hear we're raising taxes to do stuff on transportation, but it's another thing when you actually see the roads that are proposed to be fixed, and you actually see an intersection that's going to be improved, and you actually see, a roundabout, like you actually see the stuff that's going to be done, and then for it to go away, and now those things aren't going to get done.
Well, not only are they not getting done, but now all of the planning on it's like 3 years old. So we're going to have to start all over. We may not change the projects, but the costs have changed, the projections have changed, and our traffic counts have changed. That's problematic. But what's really critical about this surtax is, we have had an amazing infrastructure bill passed. We have a secretary that's interested in investing in infrastructure and transit. We have federal money sitting up there, and Hillsborough County is a qualified county. When we apply, it comes directly to us. But we have to apply. And to be able to compete for that money, we have to have a local match. We don't have it now.
Where's the local match come from?
We won't have it. It comes out of local money. It comes out of county money. Yeah. If we have a surtax, we'll have a local match. If we don't, all of that federal focus on investing in infrastructure will not come to Hillsborough County. We have to have local resources. And as we've heard in the workshops that we've done over the last 2 years, we do not have ad valorem and other tax revenues to support the infrastructure that we haven't planned for over 20 years. Mobility fees that we increased this year was a painful decision. Raising fees at any point is difficult. But we recognize when we waive those fees for affordable housing, we're doing that because it's in the best interest of the community. But when we have not raised them across the county, and now we have a deficit in our infrastructure, the people that are sitting in traffic are sitting there because we didn't plan well many years ago. But we've fixed that, but that's only for future expansion. It doesn't pay for the deficit.
Yeah, and infrastructure is one of those things that isn't sexy, right? Like you want a new building, you want a new rec center, you want a new this, but infrastructure is the thing that ages every day, and it's got to be replaced. But no one sees when you do the voters and the people watching. It doesn't get the attention that other stuff gets, and so it's neglected. And you kick it to the next commission, or you kick it to the next mayor, or you kick it to the next city council, and then before you know it, you've got a $200 million infrastructure need that everyone's looking at each other like, how are we going to pay for this?
Exactly. And the challenge we have, even though Hillsborough is growing very quickly, the Florida is growing very quickly. Everybody wants to come where the weather is wonderful like it is now.
Yeah.
All right? Who would turn this down?
What's it?
Right?
73 degrees in the middle of December 1st? Yeah.
Not bad,
right.
Not bad. But the challenge we have is people are moving here with incomes and assets from other places that aren't as high a cost. So we still have people moving here, but we don't have the infrastructure to pay for it. We also don't have the workforce to pay for it. And in order for us to remain competitive, in order for us to attract good employers that pay good work, we have to remain competitive. And we are losing that battle with the lack of affordable housing and with the lack of transit access. And if we want people to be able to have their families stay in Hillsborough County and not having moved somewhere else, we have to be able to invest in those things. And right now, the course that I can see is to build a tax revenue to pay for those things that we haven't paid for in the past.
That's why Hillsborough County is going to be in better shape than Florida as a whole, because you're talking about the tension of being a low tax state, attracting all these people here because we are a low tax state, and then you can't afford anything.
Right.
And then we don't have enough money to run government. We don't have enough money to protect the environment. We don't have money to do anything because we're a low tax state. And so if we're going to be the lowest tax state in the country, which we aim to be in some metrics we are, you're not going to have the money to do stuff. And if okay, that's a policy decision we've made, but it has consequences.
It has major consequences.
In Tallahassee, we never talk about the consequences. Yeah. We just talk about cutting taxes all day. And then we all sit and look at each other and wonder why there's no money for affordable housing or why the DCF can't afford to pay its employees, all kinds of stuff. Let's talk about criminal justice a little bit. This is another issue that's super important. Fees and Fines Justice Center resolution. Can you talk about that some?
That was in order to be able to make sure that people actually could do what they need to do after they've served their time, and to make sure that they're not charged fees in order to get right. For example, oftentimes there's outstanding fees on driver's licenses, and you need to get back to driving. We need to make sure that we're being fair about how that works. When there are issues associated with divorce and child support, there were fees that were being charged that were just not productive. And it actually kept people from being able to be lawful citizens. We worked through those issues and found places and worked with the clerk's office to find places where it made no sense to keep people from being able to move on with their life.
You're having to do all this because, I do this a lot on this show because Tallahassee screwed it up, right? Amendment 4 in 2018, same year you were elected, passed, and it was supposed to automatically restore the rights of our returning brothers and sisters, and then Tallahassee screwed it up and instituted a poll tax whereby any fees and fines that were outstanding, you had to pay that before you could be registered to vote. That's not what we voted for. That was not the intent. That was not the spirit, but that's what Tallahassee did. And this is why I wanted to talk about this. You have had to do this fees and fines and to get it straight so that people could get the rights that we gave them in Amendment 4.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate that Tallahassee messed it up, but I want to thank you for doing that because other places around the state with progressive and good state attorneys and county commissions have done things like this. But you shouldn't have to.
Right.
Because we voted on a statewide constitutional amendment.
Well, democracy is based on fairness, right?
Mm-hmm. Should be.
And it's critically important that we recognize that and fight for it. And we do that with voting whoever we vote for that has that as a primary purpose when they are running for office.
Well, I always say when you run for office, you tell people what you're going to do, you try to do it, and when you run for election, tell them what you did.
Well, that's why I wear this still. It says, because I said I would.
Mm-hmm.
And I passed that out to all the commissioners my very first meeting. Not everybody put it on, but I have continued to wear it ever since.
It's simple. Politics isn't complicated. And you ought to be doing what people expect you to do when you said it. What is the timeline for? I want to talk about just redistricting. The timeline. What's the process, and when do we finalize this?
It's my understanding that the maps have been sent up to Tallahassee for approval to make sure that they meet the guidelines for redistricting. Our legal team has reviewed the maps for making sure that they meet the guidelines according to redistricting. And we would anticipate by December 31st, we'll have the actual maps in place.
I want to talk about COVID a little bit now. Our state's an interesting state when it comes to COVID, but you've been on the commission during this whole time. What's it been like to be on a county commission when essentially you're being told by Tallahassee, we don't want you to do anything with regard to keeping your area safe. We don't want you to make those decisions. We believe that, no masks and don't do this and don't do that. Have you felt that tension, or what's it been like trying to deal with that? You can give the politically correct answer because I'll say what I need to say.
Yeah, I understand. I will say this. I wasn't planning on managing a pandemic when I got elected. But what I know that we've done is an excellent job. We were probably one of the first counties who were able to set up a system for being able to distribute care funds. We, every week, talk to the hospitals as well as the epidemiologist. Our partnership with USF Health was critically important in listening to the science in order to be able to address the concerns we had for helping people go back to work, helping people find daycare, helping people to be able to be safe, and find ways that we could still function as an economy. It was not easy. It was laden with politics where politics did not belong. And it is so sad that we've allowed politics to invade common sense because humans are not as smart as viruses are. This virus is outsmarting us every turn.
Masks and vaccines are not political
No,
footballs.
no, they should not
They
be.
are, it's science.
No, it's just good common sense to love your neighbor and do what you need to do to keep each other safe. That's good business.
And there
it's
are
good
medical,
policy.
There are medical reasons that someone could say, I'm not comfortable with the vaccine. Okay.
Fine.
But if you're only doing it because Biden is a communist and you refuse to allow the Democratic Party to inject the China virus into your body, then you're a fool.
Right.
Like, that's not reasonable.
No.
But we've gotten so political and awful about masks and vaccines and how to keep our kids safe in schools. Like, it's hard to be a politician under these circumstances. This is as bad as I've ever seen it.
I will tell you, I mean, I'm a single parent again. All right. I was having to run board meetings in the, Hollywood Squares box while the governor was deciding that we need to come back and be in-person quorum, while I did not have access to a vaccine, while I have grandchildren that are under the age and unable to get a vaccine, while I had kids that were being exposed to COVID, exposing their teachers because they had to make the choice. They economically could not stay home and had to send their kids to school. This should never have been political because at the end of the day, even if someone is dreadfully afraid of the vaccine, they still have a choice of protecting themselves and others by using protocols that we know work. Keeping your distance, wearing a mask, being smart about where you are, not being in crowds. All of those things worked. We've thrown some of the largest events, and although they're smaller than they were usually, the Super Bowl and WWE, where people went to those events and we didn't become a super spreader because we had good policies in a major event where that honestly was probably the safest place to be versus in a restaurant or a bar that was overcrowded with lots of folks that were not vaccinated and not masked. There are good ways to take care of each other. And what we were trying to do in Hillsborough County as leaders is look for ways that we could help citizens stay safe. The good news is we rolled out testing faster than probably any county, and we did it very well till the state took our site. We rolled out vaccines incredibly well in partnership with the health department and our hospitals, and now with our pharmacies, as quickly as we could. We set up target vaccinating sites at nursing homes, skilled nursing sites, at all of our testing centers, throughout our children's board locations, through Lutheran Services and our family health centers. Any employer that said, I want to get, my 20 employees vaccinated, we set up an appointment and had them all vaccinated. We did everything we could with the resources we were able to deploy with the CARES dollars to get those things done. And we didn't sit on any CARES money. We spent it all, and we spent it all on the ways that we helped keep our citizens safe. And that's what good government is. That's what we're supposed to do.
At the same time, trying to fight against a governor who was almost against all of that. It's a tough place to be. Let's talk about good stuff now. We're here. We're getting to the end of the show. I want to ask you two questions. What's your proudest day in office?
Proudest day of office. Wow, there were a lot of them, but I think it was when I asked my colleagues, which has not happened yet, but when I asked my colleagues to really look at our policies from an equity perspective. The equity profile is still a work in progress, but the good news is we are looking at our policies countywide and building a framework for making sure that when we adopt policies, we're making sure that we're investing in our communities in a fair way. The equity profile sets up that template, and it's not done yet. I wish it were, but we're almost there. And the good news is we're doing it with the community. We're doing it with our staff to make sure they're on board, because at the end of the day, it's what they bring to the board for approval that matters, because that's why we have to actually adopt those policies and make sure that we're developing a fair process. Staying on point on those things that support our community, criminal justice, the Human Trafficking Commission that I helped get established and now chair, where we're looking at families and mental health and the safety of our foster care system. All of that is embedded in that equity profile. A lot of the work that I'm doing as an office and as an officer of the county is putting those things into place. So that is wrapping a big bow around it, because my goal is to make sure that we're looking at all our communities and investing in them.
No, I appreciate that, Kimberly. And last question is, give me one New Year's resolution.
To get reelected in 22?
That's a good one. There you go. Elections matter. Kimberly, I want to thank you for being on here, new chairwoman of the county commission, my friend, my neighbor. And I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking time for us.
It's my pleasure.
And
Thank
we've
you.
got a headshot here for you to sign, so you can go on the wall of fame here.
Oh, wonderful. The right photo.
Hey, we do our homework here.
Thank you so very, very much. I look forward to doing that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vanguards of Democracy is funded and produced by Vanguard Attorneys, a local personal injury law firm serving the Tampa Bay area with ingenuity and an indomitable work ethic. Don't forget to follow Vanguards of Democracy on YouTube or download episodes on your favorite podcast streaming services like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And lastly, we're excited to announce that we're launching our new landing page, www.vanguardsofdemocracy.com, where you'll be able to ask questions, recommend guests or topics, and stay up to date with news and announcements. It'll be great. If you know how to bookmark a website, this is the one that'll make it worth it. Thank you.